Good evening, everybody. I'll call our regular public council meeting for Tuesday, September 6, 2022 to order. First things first, new business. Councillor Pollard.
Yes.
Councillor Appley.
Thank you and congratulations, Mayor, please.
Okay. Councillor Goss.
Same for me, thank you, and congratulations, please.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, congratulations, and condolences.
And I got thanks and congrats. And is there anybody that wants to get on to first Q&A? Madeline? That it? Okay. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please? So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have a set of minutes here for regular public council meeting of August 22nd. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Comment,
Any errors,
please?
omissions?
Just a comment before we adopt them. I wasn't able to be here for the last meeting, but the meeting minutes show that we adopted July 6th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, and those included motions that were not debated in the public chamber. They were debated and passed in the Committee of the Whole. So I would just ask that, I'm not sure which committee needs to review that. The July 25th and the August 1st motions were brought to the public chamber and they were adopted and debated in the public.
Yep.
But the July 6th motions were not. They were adopted in the package as presented, but they were not debated in a public chamber. There wasn't a special meeting called. So I'm going to ask that a committee review happens of what we're doing with that. I think, you know, Mayor,
I'm pretty sure they were moved and adopted at the meeting, and then the minutes were adopted afterwards.
if you go back, I watched the meeting today to review to make sure I was correct with how it happened.
Yep.
And it's not the first time that we've done this. There's been some debate around council about how we go about doing this. And in our rules and procedures, there is documentation that requires the ask of a special meeting if we do have timely decisions that need to be made. One of those motions was, I believe, for FCM to approve that. So I'm just going to ask that a committee review, look into it, and that there's some communication with municipal affairs on that, because my understanding of the legislation is that all motions have to be brought forward to the chamber and debated here unless they're legal in HR,
Right.
and those weren't. So not a thing to make an issue of, other than to point it out, ask the question that it be reviewed, and that there's some consultation with municipal affairs about how we do that properly,
Sure.
and make sure we come back and we're following that, please. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly which motions that you're talking about.
July 6th,
Yeah.
if you look at the agenda package that was there for August 22nd,
Right?
there's motions that were adopted during the July 6th meeting
Yeah.
at the Committee of the Whole.
You're talking about the motion to,
There was one there for FCM
Oh.
around making an application for funding,
yeah,
and there was another one there, I believe, for Torbay Beach, as I recall.
yeah, they were put forward at the council meeting and adopted.
But
We'll have to go back and look.
they were put forward, they weren't debated at the public council meeting. They were put forward for the minutes to be adopted, but the debate happened at the Committee of the Whole.
I will get CAO to check on those.
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident that we brought them forward and motioned those particular motions individually at the public council meeting and then adopted the minutes afterwards.
Yes, because
Mayor
Ralph
Scott?
left. Councillor
Because Ralph
Capper
got up and
left.
left.
Those July 6th or 7th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes were adopted at the July 18th. So if you go back and look at the July 18th, they couldn't be adopted at that meeting at that time, so they came forward, and only those minutes were adopted, not the motions, because they were already done at the July 18th meeting. Yeah.
right, and that's the point I'm making, that the
Right.
decision was made at the Committee of the Whole.
At the public council meeting.
No, well, I'll just ask that
I'll
committee to
just-
go back and look at
You
it,
can go back and
because the question was asked in the meeting, and it was adopted as the meeting minutes for July 6th were adopted with a motion to adopt them, but the actual motions within the July 6th meeting that
Yeah.
came forward were not debated in the public chamber.
All right,
So I'll
we'll-
ask that
We'll
gets
go back,
looked into.
we'll go back and check.
Yes, please, and just to make sure that if we do have motions that are timely, we need to debate them, that we do have the special public meeting or phone or rules and procedures. That's all. Thank you.
All right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, anybody have any conflict they need to declare? All right, seeing none, move on. Proclamations, presentations, Q&A. So we don't have any proclamations, but we do have some presentations. And we're very fortunate tonight. Last week, we gave out our awards for our Torbay 50th Banner Competition. And unfortunately, a couple of our honorable mention people were not able to make it, but we're very fortunate that they're able to be here with us this evening to receive their rewards. So I think I'll start off first. So the two people are Lauren Horlick, age 11. I'm guessing that's you, Lauren, right there. And she made, what, in the bed? Oh, okay.
Small 11-year-old.
Sorry, just guessing. And Mitchell and Michelle Colburn, age 7, who also were honorable mentions. So I'm going to get up now and present them with their awards. If anybody, and I'm sure everybody has seen them, these banners, along with the other honorable mentions and the winners, are flying over at Torbay Common, as well as the over 250 entries that we had are all over there on display. So if anybody wants to go and have a look at them, they can. So, but I will just say this before I do this, is that you guys should be very proud of the work that you did and the fact that there was over 250 entries and that you were in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only chose 5 out of all of those for people that were going to win. So you should be extremely proud. Your parents should be extremely proud. And I'm going to jump up now and give you these. Then we'll take a picture. We'll need a microphone. Hear me? So first we'll do Lauren Horry. Congratulations. And it was beautiful. And here's a gift bag for you.
Can we also get family to come up too? and
Sure.
get a group shot, please?
Do you want me to take a family picture, Danielle?
Sure, if you don't mind.
I got it. Okay, my next one is for Mitchell and Michelle Colburn. All right, Anna. Congratulations. Victoria, and a little gift bag. Do you want to get into it? Like that? Yes, gotcha.
on. All right. So, I also have a couple of more awards here to give out. And these are long service awards for, they're given out by PMA. And these are long service awards for 2022. And they're eligible positions are city manager, town manager, city clerk, town clerk, and department head. So we have 3 members of our staff that are going to receive long service awards here this evening. And I think I will start with Brian Winter. In recognition of your 15 years of service and contribution to municipal government. So Brian was hired as the Director of Planning and Development in, I guess, 14 years after that, in 2019. He moved over to the Director of Public Works. And I know that Brian, right off the bat, once he became Director of Public Works, we had to deal with Stormageddon. So it was my first time I ever had to declare a state of emergency, and Don as well, I think, and to deal with that. Brian and Don did a tremendous job, along with, of course, the rest of the staff. But Brian, congratulations, and it's my honor to present you with this award for this evening. You have a suit?
I do have a suit.
All right. So our next recipient is Ann Pico. Ann has served some time in Portugal, St. Philip's, Holyrood, and she's been with the town of Torbay since December 1st, 2009, and she's our executive clerk. And for those who probably don't have to deal with Ann very much, Ann is like the stick that stirs, keeps everything going here around the town. She looks after our minutes, our council packages, and making sure that council are aware of everything that's going on. Certainly me, as mayor, she keeps me up to date and make sure that I don't miss anything. And I certainly really appreciate everything that she does, and I'm sure that the rest of the staff here does too. So, Ann, congratulations. So in recognition of your 15 years of service and contribution to municipal government. Congratulations. And I hate saying last but not least, but anyway, last but not least, Julia Schwartz. Julia is our Director of Planning, and she started here with the town of Torbay on March 9th, 2020. But prior to that, she worked in the city of Mount Pearl, and you know, we're lucky to have her here, and the Director of Planning, and I know she works really hard, and her staff works really hard in that planning department. And you know, it's not an easy job to be dealing with a lot of these applications and residents and council and everything. But Julia, congratulations in recognition of your 15 years of service and contribution to municipal government. Lots of milestones this year. You got your citizenship.
I know, it is true. It
Congratulations.
is a milestone. Thank you. Oh, I should hold this too.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, if you want to go now, you can.
Congratulations.
Night.
Good night. School night. Hard to believe.
All right. Where am I? Okay. Next, Q&A, Madeline. Sorry, I should have left that thing there for you. Tony, can you spin that around?
I'm not quite sure how to say this.
Yep.
Well, first I'd like to, congratulate the town on a really great summer. It's been a fantastic year
Okay.
this summer, and it is nice to see the meetings back to every 2 weeks. I've asked a lot of questions in the past 20 years. I'm interested in what goes on in my town, and I have asked a lot of questions. I'm very concerned about the budgets in our town and the expenditures, and especially in some sectors. So I do ask questions, and I'm really at a loss to explain why I can't get answers to the questions I'm asking. Specifically tonight, I want to refer to the ones about the budget, but there's also other questions I've asked. So I want to ask, first of all, well, for example, I asked very specific questions about the budget on January 25th, when the budget had been just passed. You're going to be starting to talk about the budget in a few weeks and asking for citizens' input. But I cannot get answers to questions that I asked. So I don't know if it's just me or if it's in general, or if there's a new policy of not responding to questions, but I'm really concerned, and I hate to bring in a negative note here tonight, but I've been following council on digital on my computer for quite a while, and really getting a lot out of that. But I really felt I wanted to say this in person because it's troubling me, and in spite of 3 reminders, I still do not have answers to the questions I asked about the budget. I don't think any of the questions I asked are controversial or ask for an opinion. I'm mainly looking for facts.
Okay.
So what is the problem? And who, if a president has questions about anything, who do we write to? Do we write to the mayor? Do we write to a councillor? Do we write to staff? And is there a system to make sure that when questions are asked and they're sent somewhere, that the person gets answers?
Right.
And there are many examples. I'm not going to bring them all up tonight. But, maybe I'm too concerned about what goes on in my town. I don't know. But, I mean, really, I feel that I should get answers.
Okay.
And this is really something that needs to be addressed, okay? And even when 3 reminders are sent after my initial inquiry, I still don't have the answers. It is September. And you're going to be talking about the 2023 budget in a few weeks. So this is my point.
Okay.
And I'm really sorry to have to bring this to you. I'm not the only one who asks questions.
Right.
I don't know if I'm the only one who doesn't get answers, but please, I hope this can be addressed.
So
Okay.
before you sit down, I got some questions for you. So I'm not exactly sure which questions it is that you asked that you didn't get answers to. Did they come to me?
They initially went to staff,
Okay.
and I asked them on the 25th of January. I followed up on the 25th of March. 2 months later, I followed up 2 months after that with the chair of the committee, and it was assured then that I would get answers. That was in mid-June.
Okay.
So, and even a few weeks ago, I asked a question about a particular expenditure that went through council, about a ticket that was paid, speeding ticket. I never got any answers to that question either. If I'm not entitled to get answers, I should be told,
Right. Okay.
okay?
All right. Don, can we follow up on that? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Say the answers were provided?
It was my understanding the answers were, so I'll follow up on that.
Okay. We'll check that out, Madeline, and follow up with you.
Okay, thanks.
But to your point about if you want any questions that you want to ask, you can send an email to me or anybody member of council and to staff. But if it comes to me, usually I forward them to staff and look for answers and see where the email chain goes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I have no problem. You can ask me anything.
I don't think any of them are earth-shaking questions, but if I see something in my town, for example, I send photographs and I ask questions about the way that work is done in the town. I don't get answers, and I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one, because you know that there's a few of us who follow council business, and I think that really goes against encouraging people to be active in their community and to take an interest and to report things that should be reported. And well, that's it.
No, I agree, and one of our, it's not a philosophy, but I mean, it's one of the things that we do here is that we try and provide information to residents when they ask for it, right, as best as we can.
Well, perhaps there needs to be a standard procedure, I don't know, but, if it has to be filtered down to staff, fine. But, let us know what it is, because it's very frustrating, and, I don't know what else to say.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll look into it and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. All righty. Mayor's report. I don't really have anything to report tonight. We're getting back into the swing of things now that, and as Madeline mentioned, that we're getting back to our every 2 weeks meetings. Any business arising from the minutes? Okay, correspondence. We have correspondence here from municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador. Nominations for board positions are open. It's here for information purposes, or if anybody wants to run for a director position. We have a residence correspondence from 81 Camp Carey Road regarding the decision on the communication tower. I kind of, when I read this the other day, it confused me a little bit. They're asking the town council to reverse their decision, not granting a permit to Bell Canada to erect a communication tower, so forward that on to planning, have a look. And there is one here from circulars from Municipal and Provincial Affairs on the Municipal Conduct Act, Municipal Conduct Regulations, and Municipal Conduct Templates. So this has got to do with the new legislation that they're bringing forward. And we will forward that on to HR. HR it is. Okay. All righty. Committees of Council. Planning, Land Use and Development. Councilor Powder.
Thank you, Your Worship. As soon as this comes up here now, I'll be all set. Only a small agenda for this evening, so it won't take you too long. The first motion up relates to the sixplex residential road dwelling on 1545 Torbay Road. And as you all know, we had some conversations, lengthy conversations with a number of residents and others actually from to talk about the water availability. This developer has changed the way to do the development from municipal water to private wells, private non-domestic wells, to actually go ahead and make his development a reality. So the motion here is to conditionally approve application C 2021-012 to consolidate property and construct a 6-unit residential road dwelling development at 1545 Torbay Road in accordance with regulations 33 and 90 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025. The mixed residential infill land use zone table requirements, standard conditions for construction in the town of Torbay, and the conditions outlined in associated background report. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
It says there to consolidate property. What does that mean? What relevance does that have in the motion? I'm just not sure what that part is, to consolidate the property. Why is that a part of the motion?
Right now in our system, the property is all owned by the same person, but we right now have it as 3 parcels. So really, as part of this decision, it would include combining these 3 parcels into one, and then that one larger building would be built on those formerly 3, then now 1 parcel under 1 property ownership.
Okay, and I'm just curious, because I don't understand, like, if it remained three separate parcels of land, could you still put one big building on it, or do we have to consolidate to be able to put the one larger unit there with the different units in it? And I'm just asking, because I don't know it, that part of the motion I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious about that, that's all.
For this particular proposal, you have to consolidate the land because the proposal will be under one ownership and the units in it will be rented. So all of the land will be owned by one person and there's no individual ownership, like it's not the condo or anything like that, which then could probably be looked at differently. But for this particular scenario and proposal, it's one piece of land and one ownership. So yes, they do have to be consolidated.
Excellent, thank you for clarifying that for me, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next motion refers to approvals that were done back in May of last year, actually 2021. And it has to do with Phase 7B Forest Landing for 11 residential lots. And the subdivision agreement is now ready for execution, so that all the requirements of the subdivision have been met and just ready for us to enter into the agreement with the developer to sign the contracts. So motion to execute the subdivision development agreement between Marathon Holdings and the town of Torbay for Phase 7B Forest Landing subdivision, so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Just to be clear for the public record, these are all developments that would have wells, right? Yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear for public record. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So ends my report, Your Worship.
No? Okay. Thank you, sir. Admin and HR, there's no reports?
No report,
No
no.
motions. Okay. Corporate services. Report. Councillor Goss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Payroll for 58 employees for the 2-week period ending August 3rd, 2022 totaled $121,010.85. Regular payroll for 60 employees for the 2-week period ending August 17th, 2022 totaled $122,287.88. Student payroll for 17 employees for the 7-day period ended August 26, 2022 totaled $8,320.66. For the 4-week period ending August 26, 2022, invoices in the amount of $732,567.71 were processed. Invoices for council approval are as follows: 16 operating invoices in the amount of $230,317.12. Invoice number 46555-928 to Brentag Canada for water treatment chemicals in the amount of $5,785.79. Invoice number 9000203933 to Guardia Canada Security, June Security Services, $9,221.25. Again, invoice number 9000214436 to Garda Security for July Security Services, $10,445.31. Invoice number 179187 to GFL Environmental, July Waste Management Fees, $42,875.69. Invoice number 2022028 to Lynn Morrissey for Human Resources Consulting, $10,350 even. Invoice number 1206, Mercer's Paving Incorporated, asphalt patching, $11,665.50. July 15th, 2022, Newfoundland Power consolidated billing, $9,311.86. August 12th, 2022, Newfoundland Power consolidated billing, $10,154.28. July 29th, 2022 Newfoundland Power Street Lighting, $19,831.27. Invoice number 30942668 to Narl Marketing Partnership, Gas for Depot, $6,896.94. August 1st to 15th, 2022 to Receiver General, payroll source deductions, $37,398.45. Invoice 90982491, Stuart McKelvey, Scenic View Valley Loop Subdivision, $6,029.45. August 2022, Trio Benefits, Group Benefits Premiums, $17,177.60. Invoice 0497, Tough Coat Sealer and Line Painting for seasonal line painting, $18,371.25. Invoice 3089, Wade Jacks Power Systems, repair to Western Star Unit 0304, $9,159.43. And invoice number 8674, Wedgwood Cafe and Catering, Torbay 50th Celebrations, $5,643.05. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
A couple of questions, if I could. Just curious about the Lynn Morrissey Human Resource Consulting. Do we have any clarification what that's for?
I believe they're for senior management performance evaluations, but the director will confirm. They were initiated before the most recent conversation held at Committee of the Whole and the motion about utilising that consultant go forward.
Just follow up on that, Don. Can we know if that's the last payment of this for Lynn, or is there another one expected to come for these? Can we just find that out as well for?
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah.
There's one more, yeah.
And they are for performance reviews for two directors.
Thank you. So we will have policy framework in place now for when and how we engage external consultants for internal work. Perfect, thank you. Look forward to seeing that. The other thing I was curious about, the Stuart McKelvey Scenic View Valley Loop subdivision. I'm not sure what that is. And then the last one, I was just wondering about the repairs to Western Star Unit 0304. If we could get some light on those, please.
Scenic View, that's a subdivision that was in receivership. So there was property acquisition regarding that. So there were some legalities because we had mortgages and land in place, and the director of planning may be able to add to that while the director of corporate services checking the invoice.
And there is a note on that invoice that those costs are recoverable from the developer.
Okay, so I'm just curious why we were incurring costs on that. That's just the question I have. Why did we incur $6,000 worth of legal costs on that development?
As the CAO was mentioning, I think the majority, if not all, of that invoice is recoverable from the developer in keeping with council's policy, but were a number of, there's a couple of phases in that subdivision, and the new proponent basically was only purchasing one of the two. So there was some review into the land holdings, and that's still ongoing. And the new proponent now basically has to take over the subdivision agreement that is registered with the Registry of Deeds. So there was multiple communications with the new proponent as well as with the bank. And but we're in a position now, and you may have seen that there's real estate signs up now on the hill, and that's slowly moving towards that subdivision agreement being able to be taken over by a new developer and actually see those homes developed. So there's quite a bit of legal work that goes into this kind of a changeover, and it had been lying dormant for a number of years, so.
Right, and I guess what the question I'm asking for the public clarification part of it is, why are we using public funds for this $6,000 worth of legal work which is recoverable, and I'd be interested in knowing the time frame is, but for us to approve and pay that, then the onus is on us as a municipality to go back to the developer to get that money back, and I don't know when and how we get it back. So I guess I'm just not understanding.
Well, the cost will be recovered, but just for purpose of, because of the amount, it needs to be tabled with council, but it is a recoverable item, so the invoice goes to the town, and then the town will recover the cost from the developer.
Okay, so we, as per our policy right now, we had requirements that we needed our lawyers to be participating in to make sure the town had clarification on it, but those are costs that are recoverable by the developer, and the time frame of recovering that cost, is that something now we submit this $6,000 invoice to them and they pay us, or do we have to wait until development happens? And I'm just asking because I don't understand it well enough to make sure that it's clear before we vote on it, that's all.
Basically, the invoice will be issued now once it's being approved for payment.
Okay, and then it'll be issued to the developer. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, that's our standard practice with every development.
Yeah,
We have to get our own lawyers to look at it. We pay them, and then we bill back the developer.
got it. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that I was clear
Same
on it.
process with the engineers, when they do engineering review, that we bill them back for the cost. So
Yeah.
on our fees permit schedule, it clearly says with development that it's cost neutral, that the developers will bear all expenditures.
Perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that before we voted. And the very last one that I was wondering about.
One second, can I
Sorry,
touch
Tony.
up on that one, on the same one? Can we bring that one back to committee just for information purposes? And I notice sometimes too that you know, we do have developers' deposits, and we already had money up front that goes against this. I'm not sure if that would be the case at this point in time, but there's certainly money on the books are sitting there as development deposits, right?
So are you asking to,
Well, if there's deposits in place, those invoices will be deducted from. There's time so that we don't take enough of a deposit, and then we would have to bill them back as well too. And that's always cross-referenced to any deposits had. If there's taxes owing, that those deposits will not be refunded to developers or landowners as per our policy, that it would pay the outstanding taxes or fees prior to any issuance back.
Okay.
Thanks, and we can just bring that to committee, I wouldn't mind for committee to just take a look at that whole process again too, just so we understand that too. Thanks.
On the recuperate part, you mean?
Well,
We still gotta pay our
the
bill.
whole, I mean, there's probably more to this one than meets the eye too, but,
Yeah.
you know, I know there's a concern that to go after people, especially if it's anything to do with receivership or bankrupt change of ownership, or we have no recourse to a particular developer, what we do, because we've got the rights to hold the person up from doing anything until they pay the money, so there is some you know, control over what they do, so, but just for discussion purposes, because
Okay.
we didn't see this as a committee until it was there. Not saying we should or we shouldn't, I'm just saying it'd be nice to see it at committee level too.
All right. But we're still gonna pay this invoice now?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. And the last one I was just wanting to ask about was the Wajax Power Systems repair to the Western Star Unit. What's that one about, the $9,000?
That was the replacement of 6 brake pins. The front cross member was cracked. The steering axle spring and pins were replaced. King pins were replaced. Bolts and the tow hooks were replaced.
Thank you. All right, those are all my questions. Thanks. Few of
All right,
them.
okay.
I
Go
had
ahead.
something similar, the two that actually that Trina touched on. Sorry. I had the same two. But my question here now is, and I guess Councillor Pollard touched on it briefly, because I haven't seen, and I guess from my involvement with, oh my God, my involvement with this, that I haven't seen anything here for the Scenic View Valley Loop subdivision. And so you're saying that that never came to committee, everything that's going on there, that hasn't been discussed at the Planning and Development Committee so far? Because I was asked a question at the Killycoast Games about that, and I guess it must be the developer saying, well, you know what's going on and what's happening, and I'm saying no. So I think some of this stuff from a council perspective, we probably should know a little bit of a background on it before an invoice comes forward to be paid. Anyway, I didn't see anything in any previous minutes or anything on it.
Julian?
Hey, just a bit of background, like there was basically an existing, or there is an existing development agreement in place for this particular development, and it was approved years ago and registered with the Registry of Deeds. And now somebody is basically purchasing that land and taking that development over as is. I actually had it tabled at the last planning committee, but you know, the agenda was so large and we never got to speak to some of the detail as to brief the committee on what's happening there. But it's not a new development, it's the same development, but a new developer, so. But I will certainly.
So just for my own information, when I look at this, because I don't know where Scenic View Loop subdivision is that Eagle's Nest?
It's on the,
That's up in that area?
side.
Because when I seen it, I haven't seen any, yeah, okay.
Yes, but it's a different developer, yeah.
Who? KB. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, Eagle's Nest, all right, so.
okay.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Back to you, sir.
The following 4 capital invoices totaling $60,150.59 are presented for approval. Invoice 22063, Grand Concourse Authority Memorial Site Project, $18,233.79. Invoice Torbay number 3, Museum Planners Group Exhibit Development, $28,250. Invoice 22012, Octopus Consulting, Mummers Exhibit, $6,970.73. Invoice number 026916, Reed Music Limited, Stage Equipment, $6,696.07. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
For some of these costs here, specifically the ones around the Grand Concourse Memorial Site Project, the exhibit development and the Mummers exhibit, are those cost shared? Some of those costs that we have there, cost shared with provincial government, federal government funding? And are they in a current GL budget line? I'm expecting that they are. I'm just wondering if the town is on the hook for the full cost, or if that is something that we're paying a third of, or what does that look like?
The Museum Planners Group and Octopus Consulting, that's 40% funded through ACOA for exhibit development. And for Grand Concourse Authority, we actually got ACOA money for that as well. I'd have to check on the actual reimbursement rate for you, but that's cost shared as well. And it was budgeted in the last budget.
So the amount that we have in front of us here before we vote on it is this town Torbay's contribution towards it, or is it the full cost and our percentage of that would be the 40% or whatever the other cost share percentage is?
Those are the gross invoices. So
Right.
upon project completion, I do a package for ACOA and list all the individual invoices for them, and then submit them online through ACOA Direct, and then they reimburse us at the end of the project.
So can I ask a question? Because I think sometimes residents don't always understand. They see the amounts that are here that we approve, but they don't always understand that the work that we're doing with some of these projects are cost shared. And I think it would be really great if we could find a way to fit it in the package at the end when it's submitted, or somehow communicate it if it's on our website or however we do it. But that we're able to show the public how much we actually leverage taxpayers' money to do the development that we do. Because the sidewalks, the History House, the Torbay Common, a lot of the work that we do in this community takes taxpayers' money, leverages it with, 70 cents on a dollar a time, 60 cents on a dollar. But I don't think it always is something that's well understood in the community and which projects we're getting that funding on. So if I could ask committee maybe to go back, have a look at how do we package that up? Norm, when you make those submissions and you get that back, is that something that we add to the package, or how do we communicate that in the way that we do our reporting so that the public can better understand where we're able to leverage resources to do better for the town?
Yeah, I can try to put something together. I know for the exhibit development for History House,
Yeah.
the gross contribution from ACOA was $155,000. So that was a fair bit of money that came back that was there.
Well, I remember, and my last point, but I remember when we talked about, we announced the History House pushing it forward, and we got a lot of flack. I got a lot of flack of why are you supporting $1 million of our tax money going into that resource? And I remember here, we had the budget discussion that night, taking the mic and saying, no, actually, this is a cost share project, and our contribution is. And I feel sometimes that it's not always clear to residents. We know, because we're the counselors who are sitting here having these discussions. I don't know that residents always understand how we're able to use their money to leverage more money. And I want to see if there's another way for us to find a way to communicate that as we continue to do good things in this community. So I'll just leave it at that and ask you to think about it. And we can certainly have a chat offline.
Mr. Mayor?
Some ideas.
I can clear about something on the memorial side, actually. There's actually a $25,000 grant from Veterans Affairs, I believe it was from, and the rest was budgeted in this year's budget.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a COA thing, it was from Veterans Affairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the COA is for the Pecos Ridge.
Yes.
Right.
That one's cost shared as well.
Yeah. So maybe we do a report, an annual report of the projects we've done and how much we've cost shared, or I don't know how we do it, but I do think communication around that is definitely important. So I'll leave that to you guys to think about. Thank you.
All right.
I got to add to that, because we discussed this back last year at the beginning of this council. And when we went down over this, I remember talking to the CAO about it, about putting another column in here to make reference to what actually the town's portion, the same thing you're saying. And I thought that that had been resolved, because that's the same thing, and for anybody looking at that, it looks like we're paying that amount. And it's really important when you look at the memorial site project over there now, where it's all, I guess, is under construction, and for residents not to think that the money is coming, because I know that was $50,000, I think, that they put into that. Veterans Affairs? Is that right, Don?
25.
25? Okay, and we put in 50 in total, but the same thing. So, I mean, when we make the comments and talk about it, because we're kind of going, rehashing some of the things that just makes sense. The other thing here, the one I want to ask about, is the stage equipment. So that's in addition to the stage. So was that a budgeted item? Because I know that we looked at having to come up with extra money, because I know I asked Noah if there was any money left in the land, from the Land and Sea and Come Home year, to offset for the stage where it was over. But for stage equipment, I wasn't aware of anything for stage equipment, and that should come under, I guess, the Heritage, Manager of Heritage, Culture and Information. So is that something addition?
That's not
Okay.
stage equipment for the stage down on the beach. It's for the musical sessions up at History House. And
Okay.
that was funded out of the History House capital budget, that money that was left after the construction.
I wasn't aware of.
Was the same for the Octopus Consulting on the Mummers exhibit. I'm familiar with the Grand Concourse and Memorial Site and Museum Planners Group, where they were the second part of History House outside. First the renovation, then it was the exhibit development side of things, which we took from one and passed off to, I'm assuming, the Museum Planners Group. But Octopus Consulting is a new name to me and looks specific to a Mummers exhibit for substantial dollars.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, it's pricey.
That's actually the final payment for a Mummers exhibit, which was started back in 2021, and partial was paid then, and this is the final payment for the final development of the project.
So just for all the Mummers exhibit itself and not the actual placement, I guess, or putting it in the History House?
I wouldn't know the details. I do have a copy of the invoice here.
Did we not own the Mummers?
I thought we owned it.
It's the exhibit,
Yeah.
for, I read from that, yeah. We purchased the Mummers back in 2017, I think.
But we already had, I seen like a bill come through for this when it was originally put up there. Anyway, I think we probably need some more information around some of that and what it entails.
The Mummers exhibit invoice, the last one was for $5,940 plus HST for the installation of the exhibit.
Okay, that's what this one is.
Installation for, so this one plus the other one?
So the first one would have been, I'm guessing in 2021, would have been for the development of the exhibit. I can pull that one up too if you want.
Yeah, can we just get those put on the new business or business arising, so we go back for information on it? That's what I think we discussed a few council meetings ago, and I was surprised there was nothing there on business arising from this one, because I had asked a few questions, I know, at last budget meeting. But anyway, in keeping with this, if we can just see the questions we have, and we can get answers next council meeting for some of those, I know I'd certainly appreciate it, and it certainly takes some of the immediate heat off, because I know there's, I'm sure that the processes are fine, it's just a matter of understanding everything that's going on here so that we have all the information.
Yeah, well, we're all consistent with our messaging is what's really important.
Okay, got that done? All right, thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
There's also some carry forward items there if anybody has any questions regarding those. If not, we have one motion here with regards to loan financing. Rate quotes were solicited from financial institutions to finance the purchases of a JCB loader with Craig attachments from Harvey and Company Limited in the amount of $425,387 plus HST. Total cost $489,915.05. Total cost of finance net of HST rebate is $443,619.09. Two mid-sized pickups from Turnover Motors in the amount of $117,378 plus HST. Total cost $134,984.70. Total cost of finance net of HST rebate $122,408.82. 1/2 ton pickup with fiberglass cap and trailer from Hickman Motors in the amount of $79,678 plus HST. Total cost of $91,629.70. Total cost of finance net of HST rebate $83,093 even. Rate quotes received were RBC 5-year amortization for all three pickups was at 5.33%. 10-year amortization for the JCB loader at 5.29%. The Newfoundland Labrador Credit Union gave us a 5-year amortization for all three pickups at 6.5%. Again, 5-year amortization. 10-year amortization from NLCU for the JCB loader was 6.5%. The Corporate Service Committee recommends the awarding of the debt financing for the JCB loader to RBC with any amortization period of 10 years at the interest rate of 5.29%. And the Corporate Services Committee recommends the awarding of the debt financing for 3 pickups to RBC with any amortization period of 5 years at the interest rate of 5.33%. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Just,
Comments?
just on that, I know this was at the last council meeting, and I had asked questions around the use of our money to pay ourselves back from our infrastructure reserve. I did see in the minutes, or the notes to the question, I guess, or there was some discussion at committee level on it. The reference came back saying, I think that it was, the reserve was set up for emergency repairs to water infrastructure, if my memory serves me right. And it also said that it required a motion of council to remove money from the reserve to actually finance or use, which I agree with. It certainly is, and this is what this is. This is a motion to finance something. Where we take it from can just as easily be added on to the motion to do that. And I also did say at the time that the interest rates are fairly high, and we went back and checked to make sure that the quotes were still good and valid, and they came back at 5.33 and 5.29, which is getting on the high side of things. And my calculation at the time was $125,000, I think, on the 400 some odd $1,000 was what the additional interest cost would be over the 10-year period. And I said it'd probably be better to pay us back, our own selves back on that, and treat it as a loan back to our debt reserve. Anyway, so I'm not sure if that was looked into and shunned or not considered. The other thing, I guess, in relation to the setup of that reserve, there has to be some motion to council somewhere that lays out what the reserve is used for and how we use it. And I haven't seen anything on that for, well, since I asked questions, and this is not the first time I asked a question. And that's not saying anything about not getting a response, or just knowing that there has to be a rule set up around it somewhere. And if we can use it to finance our own and pay back, I mean, that's $2.6 million sitting there that hasn't been touched for years. And looking at the operating, and no one would know more than I do, we're probably in not fear of dipping into our operating account at this point in time, and we'll be into next tax year and have our next year's tax dollars in. But we could certainly borrow from ourselves and pay back ourselves. At some point, it's going to come to that. It's not an emergency reserve fund. At least my understanding of what, the whole asset management side of things in reserve are, is not for emergencies. It's for a planned use of those funds to replace older existing infrastructure. Yes, repairs on an emergency basis, we do need it. So I'm just wondering if that was looked at and given some serious thought to, rather than us paying 5% to an outside bank when we can do it ourselves, at least for the time being.
Excuse me, when I looked at that, I thought the recommendation was to just use up the reserve for this equipment. I wasn't aware that the idea was to pay it back at an interest-free rate and put the money back into our reserve. I also did go out to the market to look at interest rates again, as inflation is starting to show slow, but interest rates are still going up. The quoted rate is 0.4% higher than RBC is currently holding for us, and RBC is expecting that to increase again in September when the Bank of Canada raises rates, and they're expecting them to continue to go up for the next 12 to 18 months. So any borrowing that we do next year will probably be in excess of 6%. So we could use the reserve now, or if we are going to do borrowing next year, which we will likely do with our application for North Pond water treatment, we'd save even more money if we used reserve and a payback in 2023 rather than use it now on this equipment in 2022.
Can I ask?
So-
Sorry.
Could I just add to that?
Yeah.
So that, those funds were transferred in years that we had surplus, with the long-term goal of implementation of the town's asset management plan, which we don't have developed yet. Any time that we did borrow from main operating to cover, for example, the gas tax, one agreement we did to implement projects for the total agreement in 1 year. There were motions of council on the books, so when the installments came back, they stayed in main operating versus going back to the gas tax account. So if that's, there would have to be a motion, or the recommendation would be to put, if that's the case, if that's council's doing, that maybe that's a discussion, better to have a committee to hold and defer this and then bring it back so the proper wording can be put in place for the next meeting versus trying to do it here now in the public chamber. If that's the intent. There is the concern about, utilizing those funds for budgeted expenditures. Those loans are budgeted this year, and I believe when we looked at going out to tender for the 3 pickups, it was the discussion of using the budget resources allocated for the loader and the backhoe to make all this happen. And there was motions of council to that effect.
That's fine, and that I understand, and the intent, and this needs more discussion, and I'm sorry for bringing it up, just that when the interest rates are starting to get high, we've got to start looking at how we're handling the overall money overall, and the asset management plan is a very important part of it. I was never suggesting that we draw down the reserve and not hold it as a budget item. It's exactly the same as we borrow from the bank. We're just borrowing from the reserve and paying ourselves back. The budget item is still exactly the same. It's still that taxpayer cost, except we're paying ourselves rather than the bank. So at the end of the year, or at the end of the term, we'd have $125,000 paid back to ourselves rather than out the door to some other company. But I know this is at the initial stages of this, and there's a lot more discussion around where the asset management needs to go and what that figure looks like before we start using it necessarily internally for these things needs to be done. But the accumulation of surpluses over a period of time is fine, but for that to sit as a reserve, there has to be some motion of council saying how that reserve is to be used, not to say that it's just sitting there at the present time, right? So, yeah, so I'm fine. Yeah, right.
So can I ask a question here? My understanding for an emergency, like a water issue, something like that, was catastrophic. There's 90 cents on a dollar for emergency issues like that that can be accessible. I think Councillor Pollard is raising some really, really good points for council to consider. And I think that a discussion around, I know that we have someone in place to look at our asset management plan, but if we look at the assets that we do have, I think we can tell in a quick enough, a snapshot, what's newer, what's going to need what in the, even if we look at the next 5 years of what our expectations are. And then as our director is prepping now for the budget discussions, if we could frame this up and have this conversation, then at least we can come back with a better idea of where the best bang for our buck is. But $125,000 that could be saved for the residents of Torbay is a fine chunk of change, and I think that's something we absolutely should talk about. So are we saying here now that we're going to take this motion and rescind it until we have that analysis and that discussion, then bring it back to council? Is that what I'm understanding? Or are we,
No.
what is it, our next step is going to be here?
To me, Director brought up a good point about next year, we're still gonna have to borrow some stuff, and the interest rates are likely gonna be higher. So
Yeah.
as we go forward, particularly budget time, and we'll look at this potential of using our reserves to pay ourselves, and is that what you mean, Tony?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Okay.
because, it's September,
Yeah,
and, we need that lower. I don't think that we'd be buying if we didn't need it, so,
It's a larger discussion
Yeah.
than just this one item, because it has to look at our assets over a much longer period of time than, the 2-year period or 5-year period. It extends way bigger than that, and we have to build up that fund as well. I just looked at the interest rates at the time and said, we could, in my mind, I still think we could use it now and move forward, but we can look at it next year as well to see what it looks like. But I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that is a saving line on the budget. That is still a cost, including the interest associated with it, a cost to the budget item. It's just that the reserve down the road will reap all the benefits of having those dollars put away, so we'll be able to finance everything we do ourselves.
that's right. We're not
I understand what
We're
you're
not
saying.
saving 120,000, we're putting it into our reserve. And this goes back to what I said before, why it's a bigger discussion, because my fear always is that council will use our reserve and not pay it back, like we did for the last two budgets. After using $1 million that we had saved up of the residents' money, and we used it to balance our budget 2 years in a row. So that's always my fear, is that with the swipe of a pen, council can decide not to pay back that $40 grand a month, whatever it is, over the period of that term, and, and take it out of the reserve. So we had to be very careful with that.
Right, okay, so I just wanted to understand the scope of where the discussion is going. Last question I have on this then is, the terms that we're looking at here, 5 years and 10 years on the mortgage, when the 5-year one makes sense to me, but the 10-year one, by the time we've paid that off, like the value of that machine when it's paid off, are we gonna have something that we can resell? Does it make sense? Explain to me that 10-year amortization makes sense instead of the 5.
I think
That's
we
all
usually
I'm-
get about 15 years out of the loader, right?
We have in the past, but that's come back to bite us as well with maintenance costs. So normally for a loader, you're probably looking 12 years at max. You gotta look at the environment that a loader's sitting in. I mean, it's in pickle all year round, so.
Right, okay, but 10 years makes sense.
I believe I'd go back and look at the vehicle replacement policy that got drafted up, but I think it's
Yeah.
10 to 12 years that we're looking at.
Okay,
But again, I'm not sure what the amortization amount would be at that time. I'm not sure if Director Snellgrove
So
can speak
what
to
I
that.
try to do with those amortizations is I try to match the payment to the useful life of the vehicle,
yeah,
because then that helps manage our cash flow, because if we pay it off faster, it's great that it's paid off, but then that impacts our cash flow for our next budget. So what I try to do is try to match payment terms with useful life.
absolutely, and that's what you very eloquently said what I was trying to ask. Thank you, Norm. That makes perfect sense to me, that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you,
All right.
sounds good.
Any other questions?
Now I got to ask the question. So if we don't go with what Tony or Councillor Pollard was recommending, are we saying now that by going with RBC, that we could potentially have like $125,000 savings now that we're saying, no, we're going to go with the bank? Is that by us, when you're saying we have to have a conversation later because it's more than what we can have right now? Is that what you're saying? Is if we go along with what's in here now, we're basically, my understanding of it is to say that, okay, we could potentially save $125,000, but because it's a conversation to have later, we're going to go ahead and award this financing to RBC and not look into our reserve. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes. That's where it ends up at the end of the day, to Norm's suggestion there too. I mean, the interest rates are going up, so our next round, we have lots of financing sitting on the books at the present time. And they will be at higher interest rates next time round, so the opportunity
We're assuming
may
that
present
it
itself there to have a higher saving. But it is not as simple as that. I mentioned it because I think we're fine in the interim period. I didn't for once say that it is going to save on the mill rate for taxation. It's going to be, we're loaning ourselves the money to build up our fund so we get the financial freedom at some point in time, right? To pay it
Yeah,
back.
so we're loaning ourselves the money, so wouldn't it make sense to do that now? Like, I was looking at this because I know you brought it up before, but.
If I can jump in, I mean, I do agree with what Councillor Pollard's saying to some, yes, you're looking for the long-term goal here, what we're trying to do down the road. I do also totally agree with what the mayor said, that it's no different from a town perspective, from a personal perspective. You know, you all of a sudden you borrow money from yourself and you're saying, well, I got to do something this month, or I got to do something next month, and next thing we're not paying it back properly. So I totally see your point, Councillor Pollard, and I totally get the mayor's point. And to me, from a town perspective, I know the rates are raising up a bit. What happens if we got to finance something down the road that all of a sudden we can't take from our reserves? Then we're going to be paying higher interest rates. I say save the money, keep our reserve, do what we're going to do now. I'm most comfortable doing that quite personally, and for the town.
Yeah.
And that's a fine option as well. I guess the biggest point of what I'm trying to say is that we have to recognize that we've got to get there at the end of the day. We just can't have money sitting there doing nothing without purpose and without rules around it either, in terms of how it's gonna be used, when it's gonna be used, and how it accumulates as well.
And I really think, to your point, this is a very large topic that we must discuss for future lending or whatever, how we're gonna finance things, because until you brought this up, I didn't realize what an opportunity there was at some point to do this. But time is of the essence kind of right now with what we need to do. That communication and that back and forth on that topic should be for another day, I feel. But it has to be had. I totally agree with you.
It's also a requirement, so.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we want to defer this and have a discussion at committee of the whole on Monday night and then bring it back to the next council meeting. If the will of council is to draw into the reserves, the proper motions aren't drafted to make sure that the provisions are to repay the money. So that's not something I believe that can be done from the floor tonight without having a deeper discussion.
I think personally that takes a bigger dive, as Councillor Pollard pointed out, because we just got one of our letters here is approval for phase 1 of our water treatment. Phase 2 and phase 3 are going to be coming down the road. So for a larger project like that, now that we have the time and the lead time, we can look at what those costs are going to be coming, and maybe we can determine if we can use some of our reserves to do that. But for this particular purchase, I'd just go forward with this one.
I'm sorry for starting now, because if I have my time back, I wouldn't have, because if we're talking about using that for our water treatment plant, I don't think that's the discussion to have either, because that's much larger dollars than this at the present time. I know what I'm saying probably seems contradictory to the point. It needs to be discussed and looked at in long-term planning. Interest rates are getting extremely high, it's getting expensive. If we've got the funds to do what we need to do, then we should get to the point that we can use our own funds and never have to worry about going outside, and that's where it needs to get. However, it still has budget implications, and it still has mill rate implications that is not gonna make it any easier from that side of things. Eventually it will, because we end up paying ourselves,
But we should go
I'm willing
forward.
to take that back and go, and look at the next one during budget process and then have the larger discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we should go forward with this. And I think just to the Deputy Mayor's point, I had wondered the same thing you asked about, will we be spending $125,000 that we could have saved? But what I heard in the discussion when I asked the question was, right now, at this rate that we have that's being held for us, we've got the opportunity to do this with a smaller financing cost. The amount of money that's there, what I'm hearing Councillor Pollard say is we need to have policy around how we're going to do that and decision-making, which definitely is a discussion we need to have. But also that there's a bigger return on investment to what Mayor is saying about other potential items where when the interest rate is higher as it continues to rise, where there may be better opportunities for savings for residents. And that's the reason why I'd be comfortable to support this motion as it stands tonight after this lengthy discussion. I think we've done good governance here and having a good, well-rounded discussion to understand where things are. And now we've got an idea of directive to give back to committee and staff to frame up a next discussion around this.
All right.
The last thing I'd like to add to that, and it's something that we'll talk about down the road, because of my background and what I'm doing with the financing and mortgages and so forth, the Bank of Canada expects this to go on probably for another year and a bit, inflation, year and a half. We're probably looking at a couple of years that we're gonna see some higher interest rates. But then again, it's not a long term in terms of the health of our town. A couple of years is not going to be too bad. So I think things will come back around, that when we're going to finance future projects, we'll get better rates. But for now, I think it's the best we can do at this particular point.
All right, call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
And beyond that, there's some minutes and background reports there. If anybody has any further questions on that.
I have one question relating to the same thing we just talked about, and Norm's comments just stuck in my head. Norm, you said that RBC is expecting in middle of September that the rates are going to go up by 0.4. Are they going to hold our rate?
Yes.
Yes, they're holding interest rates have already gone up by 0.4.
Okay.
They are holding our rate, and they're expecting another increase in September, but Bill is holding our rate pending approval.
Pending, okay, so this still has to go municipal affairs, right? for
Yes,
approval of the
so
board?
I had to get approval in the council chamber first, and now it'll be submitted to municipal affairs this week.
I have one quick. So will they hold that rate, for 120 days from the time of? Did they give us a time?
They gave us 90 days,
90 days?
but they're usually flexible on that.
And how far are we in now from the
I'm
original?
Not sure, I can
conversation?
look that up for you.
Right, just so, again, time is of the essence, so we can get this done.
All right,
Push municipal affairs, because it sits in there for a long time,
okay.
or historically.
All right, thank you. Number 2, economic development and tourism. No reports, no motions. Okay. Heritage, history, culture, and arts, Deputy Mayor.
We didn't have a meeting since we met the last time. However, Noah's done up a report in there. And I just want to touch on some of this because I was going to do it in the go-around but he's got it outlined more. But it's interesting to see that the History House welcomed more than 1,900 visitors during the months of July and August, and hosted or organized 20 individual events. And I had in here, because I got to attend some of it, the Land and Sea Festival last weekend. And there was approximately 650 people. And I do want to make a comment here with some of the thank yous, because I think with that weekend, with the launch of the Mannion Report, I mean, it's history in the making. And so Noah mentions about Derek Diamond, thanking him for organizing, coordinating the festival's music and culture performance, Rochelle Kavanagh for the living exhibits, and more importantly, John Amora Mannion, Sean Cadigan, Alton Howlett, Jamie Dower, and Terry Quinlan for the contributions to the Mannion Collection launch. And then it goes on, the rest of it there with different people being mentioned, and we even had a couple of people here from Ireland. And George Power was also instrumental for organizing, coordinating the launch of that Mannion collection project. So, you know, it was a really, I guess, important and an honor to be there to see that after hearing it for so long, and to see the amount of people that actually showed up. And of course, looking at the Torbay Museum Advisory Committee, the History House staff, Donna, Sydney, Jack, and Pyers, and everyone who participated there, and also the official dedication, which we've talked about, of the stage and that at the beach, and the official dedication for everyone. It's the Fiddler Goss and Jennings stage at Torbay Beach. The dedication took place last week, so it's all excellent. And the only ones that I didn't mention there was Brenda Rowe for planning and installing the exhibition Together at Last, and Torbay Folk Arts. And I want to, the members of, I already said about I thought I saw Lara Maynard's name there and I forgot, but anyway, big thank you to her as well. But that was a wonderful opportunity to be there, and I don't know if you've got anything, you were there for most of that weekend as well, but
Yeah,
it was a lot of work and what have you that went in, and see it all come together.
I'll just make a comment on the Mannion project. I don't know that even when Councillor Tapper, when Ralph approached me on that in the beginning, before we ever decided that we were going to do it, I had no idea how big of a deal it was. So for the first month or 2 months that we were talking about it, he asked me to keep it just between me and him for that period of time, because he had things he was working out with the Newfoundland Irish connections. And, you know, it was great to see so many people came for that. The president of MUN was there. There was representatives there from Ireland. Dr. Mannion and his wife were there. But now, Councillor Tapper, in his role as the chair of Newfoundland Labrador Irish Connections, is in Ireland this weekend for the launch of the Mannion project over there. And the fact that the Prime Minister of Ireland is going to be in attendance just goes to show how big a deal it is over there, and give us a better appreciation of the potential of that project and where it can go. So Yeah, it was just that one little thing, you know, it's certainly a fitter, I think, in our cap. And we'll keep promoting it and see where it goes from there, so.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience.
It's a good job by everybody.
Mhm.
All right, thank you very much. Infrastructure, Public Works.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mayor.
Upton.
Okay, so special thank you to the Mayor for joining me for the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee meeting with our Director, Brian Winter. We met on August 31st. The items that we discussed are here in the package. So we talked about the flow meter project, and there is a motion there to approve change order number 1 for project 17-GI-20-00035, water system upgrades, flow meters portion in the amount of $34,200.26 plus HST. This change order is for additional valves and a live tap sleeve for the project. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, comments?
Can I ask one question on that? You refer to it having to be moved because this is the one with the wires or something located somewhere else, or an easement of some kind where the chamber was gonna go in the first place?
Yes, that's correct. There was actually underground wires there. As the earlier tonight, I've been in the town 17 years. It's the first time I knew there was underground wires in the town. We never ran into it before.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. So the next piece there is the sidewalk project, and I gotta say, it's looking fabulous. All the details are here. There is a motion to approve change order number 1 for project 17-RNC-21-00001, Torrey Road Sidewalks Project to the amount of $175,098.76 plus HST. This change order is for additional work as listed in the change order. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, questions?
Are we certain that we're picking up the 33 1/3%? Makes no difference at this point in time. We're getting paid anyway because it's done. But
I can't say I'm 100% certain, but I do have an email from the department who we were in consultation with while we're doing this process, and they agreed that the change order was in order. So,
can we make a note for future projects that, listen, I'm sure looking forward at this as it was being done, we would have moved ahead. It's just that right now it's all done and there's very little we could do about it if we want to do something about it. But the consultant on the job should be aware of substantial project overages as we move forward, and we should really be given a heads up as to what that looks like down the road, so we can make that conscious decision whether or not we want to spend. Because right now we have not quite sure whether we're going to get 1/3 of it back, so we're automatically on the hook for the 175. If we get 33 back, we're going to be, let's say, $40,000 or $50,000. We're going to recoup. We're still going to be out by $125,000, and I'm sure our loan approval is only been for the amount that we went to tender for. So we're looking at trying to come out, not only not finance it, but have $100,000 plus cash we got to find to finish off the project. Right? It doesn't surprise me that this is here in terms of that. All I'm saying is that the consultants need to be held to that higher standard, that they stay in touch with us and let us know when things are going awry so that we can jump on top of this stuff and make arrangements for it.
You got a comment?
Yeah, if I could, we did discuss this at committee, and you know, I hear you, Councillor Pollard, and I think that's a very important point for any work that we do with consultants in the community, to look at, you know, cost overruns and responsibilities, and make sure that's very clearly communicated, how that's going to roll and all projects go forward. But I did ask the question if we were still within budget of the project with this additional motion coming in. It was my understanding that we are. Director, can you speak to that, please?
Sure. The original budget for the project, as everyone knows, was $2.3 million. And the actual project came in under $1 million. So it is well within the $2.3 million. But to Councillor Pallard's point, he is correct. We need to hold the consultants more at arm's length when we're doing these things.
Well, now, I'm confused again, I'm sorry, because when you say 2.3, but we didn't get 2.3, that's what we had. And when they came in at 1 point something, they took whatever was, I guess, between the 1.2 or whatever, they took almost $1 million back from us, so we can't really say that it came in on budget, that's what we had. So I guess now whatever the total they gave us, this 175,000 is over the initial amount. So it's potentially not within budget.
But my understanding, and I'll let the director speak to it, was that we budgeted based on the 2.3 million. So the town's allocation for it was in relation to the 2.3 million. So what we had budgeted in our annual budget was enough there so that this is not a cost overage in the budget for 2022 for the town of Torbay. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well, yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. So what we have budgeted, Deputy Mayor, for the project is still,
Okay.
we're still within the framework of
Yeah.
what would be in the GL for that cost for the town of Torbay for this budget cycle.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
what the
because it's
director's
not,
saying.
yeah, but I know, because when you look at it, it's confusing, because even we got the sign out there for 2.3, but I mean, that's not the reality, we only got half of that.
Right, so the half of the cost for that
Yes, I know what you were
2.3 is
saying
what it
now.
cost the
Yeah.
town. And so the other half of that money that would have been allocated in the budget, we did not use, which is where this comes in within the budgeted resources that we have allocated for this fiscal year. And I asked that question. I don't agree
But that's not
with the
necessarily.
cost, I hear your point.
That's true, but it's not necessarily the dollars for the given year either. So we had a project of $2.2 million, which were 33%. We were at $660,000. We would have financed that $660,000 over 10 or 15 years. So our yearly cost for the budget would have been budgeted at $66,000. We're still going to be $175,000 in addition to whatever 33% of the $1 million is, $330,000 that we say, would have financed 33. So there's still dollars that we got to come up with in order to
Yeah.
cover off our yearly cost on this overage itself. But
So before we pass the motion on it, can I ask that the procurement around this, how we do procurement go forward with this, with the town, addresses this issue? I don't know which department oversees that to make sure that happens, but I hear your point. Like, I think $175,000 change order on a project at the end with, and we did look at what they were. There were, sensible and substantial cost overruns that when we ran through them, but I think it's important that we do have infrastructure in place so that if there are cost overruns, there's a conversation about who's on the hook for that and how is that laid out when the contract's signed with the town.
And I think to your point, and I guess to Councillor Pollard's point, with the consultant, this additional cost is because we added on to the sidewalk at Bally Line, right? That was part of it. So
Yeah.
we extended down Bally Line, had to put in a head wall, and then we extended in Bally Line. So that was outside the scope of what we had initially done. So hopefully, when we do the next phase, that piece will come off, we want to pay for it again. So,
Yeah. There
but
was
they
that
should have
point.
came to us at that time and said, well, we're gonna be having to put an extra 100 feet or 150 feet down Bally Line. There's gonna be additional cost to that, and then we would have known.
it's also, worthy of discussion with municipal affairs whenever we get that chance to, in terms of how they actually control these projects as well, right? Because at one point in time, the engineering costs up front were allowed to be covered off in terms of the project. So if an engineer did a good job up front, the $50,000 they spent will be covered off in the project. But now they don't do that anymore. So you're left with essentially Class D estimates, and you're definitely going to have project overruns, and they only approve or will allow you to have what is the approved dollar amount. So as soon as you get into large change orders, so I guess there's a number of things, it's a contingency. It's just how we handle the whole thing, and the experience with project consultants is that they've got to do a better job too. They got to step up and you know, give us the upfront so we can make that conscious decision, $175,000 decision, rather than after the fact. There's no way we get away from doing it. The work is all done, so we're on the hook for it regardless.
Well, if we had got all the money that was out there on that sign, we would have had sidewalks right from there right to Man's
Yes.
Lane and probably into the schools.
Yes, that was like ridiculous, the way that whole thing was handled, like, anyway.
All right, call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you. So then we talked about the multi-year capital works projects. So the road work information is there, stormwater mitigation information is there, open space and trails information, the Commons generator project, trail development from 2021 to 2022 was talked about, the War Memorial Site Project, water and wastewater projects. There's a motion there around the water treatment North Pond piece we'll get to in a minute. North Pond water levels, normal levels are around 10 to 11 feet above the intake. So at that time, the current height was 10.5 feet, and it's nice to know we didn't have to have a water conservation order this year. It was extremely hot, but we felt that it may be because we've invested money into our leak detection work to see what resources are coming out of that pond, and it was extremely hot summer this year. We all know we didn't get a lot of rain, we had a lot of fire bans and stuff, but the investment in our infrastructure to make sure that we're mitigating leaks and that we are learning more information about what that pond is doing and what our flow is helping us with that. So that was great. We had a conversation about speed calming, and we talked about speed calming in the Bowling Line area. Again, we were informed that we're having trouble pulling data from the sign, and so I'll ask for an update on that in just a minute. And then we talked about putting a stealth box in there. So currently, right now, the way it's set up is that there's a speed sign in on the Bowling Line, and when people are coming down over the hill, they see it. The question is a speeding issue the same thing the other way, up the Bowling Line? Then the question is, what's the impact of having that there? Is it actually slowing people down? Are we getting a real read of how fast people are going? So the stealth box comes in as a little box that gets put somewhere that's inconspicuous, so people don't know that they're being recorded for their speed. And it just takes the speed so the town gets more information. So, you know, we talked about what we're able to do around speeding on provincial roads. And as a municipality, we can educate, we can advocate, we can put signs up like this, and we can, you know, ask people to slow down and be responsible for their actions when they're driving. The work that we're doing here now is about trying to mitigate that with the tools that we have available to us, and to gather the information, have the best information that we have available. So this is one example of what we're doing in the town. There are other signs in other areas, and we do know there's a lot of speeding issues right across the community, but this was the discussion that we had at committee. And I also asked about a hidden driveway sign on Indian Mill Line. I came back to staff with that, it was about last year, and actually myself, when I pulled out of the driveway where the resident asked me to ask about it, and had an accident myself because of the fact that it's such a dangerous intersection. So the director had noted that at the time when the request was made, he had sent a note out to the province to ask for follow-up. And I believe before we finished the meeting, actually, he had informed us that he had followed up on that again. So that's what that's about. Brian, if you could give us a little update on the data on that sign and where things are on that.
Sure, update on a couple of things there for you, I guess.
Thank
So we did actually get the data off the sign. I haven't had a chance to go through it there yet, but that's my plan for tomorrow. So once I get that, I'll have that for our next committee meeting. Our stealth box is going to be, the bracket's going to be installed tomorrow. And the mayor did reach out to the MHA, and the MHA responded to him on the sidewalk and speed limit in there as well. So that is moving again finally. And the hidden driveway, same thing. I did hear back from the province this morning, and they're sending their guy down to have a look. Each one of those signs are site specific, so they need to actually come down and see what's actually going on there, whether there's trees in the way or something like that they can move. One thing I can say is that just last week I did see Department of Highways down, or Transportation Works down, cutting trees along different areas in the town that Councillor Pollard had mentioned before. And that's the first time I've seen them actually down in the town with a chainsaw cutting trees in areas. So it's a positive thing, and it's good that the mayor and our MHA is messaging the minister and the local guy as well. So, and I did have one quick update as well. I meant to send to you guys today on the capital works project for road work. So that did close, as you can see, on August 30th. There is there may be an issue with the winning the lowest bid. So we've got that gone to legal to look at now to make sure that whether or not if that one's okay to keep or if it's outside of what's permitted. But the two lowest bids were well within budget for that project. So either way, we'll be below budget on it, or the bid is below budget, I should say.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for anybody on the report before I go into the motion?
I got a couple of questions. For the road work, is the road work in Roblin Place being changed? This came up at the last meeting, but I think there was some culverts and widening that going to take place out there, and somewhere along the way, they've been told that that's not going to take place, that the road would be repaved and that's it? You aware of?
No, I've never. I've had a question about it being widened, but there was
Yeah.
never an intent to widen the road out there. That
But to
wasn't-
put in culverts.
But culverts
and
will be
put-
placed as with any road
Where
work.
they're
would-
to now.
Would have required. right?
Yeah, because the, I
'Cause
guess,
it doesn't make sense.
indication was, I know
Yeah,
that,
doesn't make sense to do the road if there's a bad culvert in the road,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, but it was the sides of the road because there's no shoulder on the road, what
Yeah.
have you, out there. The other thing that I've got there to ask about is that we had a resident come in and ask about about a crosswalk at the end of Lower Street and Enemy Line. And they came in and that was talked about since, and I guess I got asked a question about that going there, because at the time when the resident came in, we were kind of all saying yes to it because where we've got the trail coming up Lower Street and even with mailboxes up Enemy Line, they're down Lower Street. And as well as a crosswalk at the end of Bauline Line, or going along there where people are walking down, because somebody is going to get killed there, because they're coming down and the bikes are coming down and they're going right across. They hook up with the crosswalk going in, so, and I know it's not, that's my thing that we're going back, but now we've started this, putting crosswalks on municipal roads or provincial roads. So I'll leave those two there for you to answer first before I go on to the other two comments I got there.
Certainly, yeah. So the request has gone to Transportation Works to look at those crosswalks.
Yeah.
I did check with our one of our consultants as well, the one that's doing our road work or sidewalk work for us, to see if a actual lighting system is required, like anywhere we put a sidewalk on Torbay Road as such. And his response was, we put it at Marine Drive and say Juniper Ridge because there's schools in those areas. So that may not be required down say at Lower Street or at Bowling Lawn area. So we may just get away with a regular crosswalk there.
I just assumed that that's what would go
Yeah,
there.
but like I said, I've got a request gone in. I will follow up with the regional director, I guess. he is.
Yeah, okay, so that's something that's gone back to them. When we talked about the sidewalks and that again, like there's some places, majority of the places got sods put along. Are they coming back to put in sods on the area that there's nothing to now, just the topsoil?
Yes, that was another question I had for the consultant when I was speaking to him earlier the week, or last week, sorry, was about the extra sodding, and he was under the impression that most of the sodding was in place, but I think there's going to be areas that you're probably not going to see sod, because like you saw in the change order, the area from, say, Fleming's Hill down to Mary Brown's, because originally that was supposed to be open ditch, and that's where a lot of cost came, because we had to move in and fill that ditch, right? So there was no sodding put in for those areas, right? So,
I just thought that they stopped because of the heat and what have you, right? Because they hadn't been watering it, but I mean, I'm getting those questions.
yeah, for sure,
because-
yeah.
And the other thing, so are they coming back as a part, the other thing was about the efficiencies, where the pole is in the middle of the sidewalk, is that going to be fixed down there by Liddy's?
They're down there, that'll be poured tomorrow.
Oh, is that right? So they're working on that?
I was down there
Okay,
today, and they got
excellent.
it formed up there today.
Yeah, okay, perfect,
yeah.
all right. That
Yeah,
was
just
my.
going around the pole, right? You're not gonna move the pole.
Yeah, I know they're gonna have to do something, because it
Yeah.
was just by fluke that somebody was going along, that day in a walker, and that's as far as she ended up getting. Now, what were and I came out and got a picture of her going along in her walker from across the road over there in the.
Yes,
in
so the
mud.
original plan was to go in around that, because to move that one pole, I think we had moved 5 or something like that, which would have been like a huge cost. So,
But that's the only one in the middle of the sidewalk, though.
There's
there's a couple that's sort of inside and outside, but if you drive the city, there's a lot like that as well. But there is a 5-foot span, or over 5-foot span inside the pole itself towards the retaining wall at Liddy's. So that's what they're circling around that, right? So it's
That's
lot,
what you'll have to do the winter then, when you're clearing the
There's lots of room
sidewalks
for-
to go
yeah.
in behind.
there's lots of room for a plow to go in behind and someone that mobility issues.
Only in Newfoundland. Looked so foolish right when you seen it, I couldn't believe, and then I wasn't home and I got a phone call on it.
Yeah, it's not only in Newfoundland, you'll see them in lots of places around,
Oh,
around
right.
Canada, actually. It's probably just
Not
noticed.
looking at the same way
next time you go out,
it
you'll
is
see 'em.
in your own town.
All right, you got a motion?
I do have a motion, if there's no other questions. All right, so there's a motion here pertaining to Phase 1 of the North Pond Water ask. So, be it resolved that we, the ultimate recipient, the town of Torbay, accept the cost-shared funding as outlined in the Department of Transportation Infrastructure Project Approval Letter dated the 26th day of August 2022. Project number 17-GI-23-0003, project named North Pond Water Treatment Plant, Phase 1, with a total project value of $950,000. This council agrees to provide the ultimate recipient share value of $258,448 in funding for this project, and authorizes the mayor and chief administrative officer / town clerk to enter into a funding agreement with the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure on behalf of the town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Seconded, comments?
I'll take a minute. This is, in my opinion, by far, one of the biggest issues we've had as a council. And it is my absolute pleasure this evening to read this motion in this public chamber. And I can tell you, in my years that I've been here, this has been something that we have worked towards and worked towards and worked towards to try to make sure that we're doing the best that we can as a council to ensure safe, clean drinking water for our residents. And I'm very happy to see finally that there's movement towards getting that goal achieved. And it's been something that we've been passionate about, we've worked towards, we've had disappointments over the years, but we've stayed with it. And I just want to make sure the residents know that we are working towards making sure that we have better, safer water in our community. We've been at it the last 5 years that I've been here. We'll continue to be at it for the next 3 years that I'll be here for sure. And it's with great pride and passion that I bring this motion forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think I'll just mention that this is phase 1 of a 3-phase project that we put in. Because prior years, we never had very much luck going in with the total cost, which is around $8 million. So, on the advice of staff and the government, we went ahead and did this in a phased approach. Hopefully, all the announcements haven't been made yet. Maybe we'll get another phase, we don't know, but this is a good start. It's nice to have phase 1 start, because now when we go back the next time, we can say phase 1 is completed. We're ready to do phase 2, so to me, if the government is gonna approve phase 1, then hopefully that's an indication that phase 2, phase 3 will move forward. But I also want to caution people that this does not address our capacity issue that we have. This addresses our, part of our water quality issue. And it's
Right.
just the first step
Yeah.
to a larger project, which is equally, well, I mean, it's equally important to the people that are currently on the water supply that's clean and safe drinking water, but it does not address our capacity issue.
Absolutely.
However, the project that Director was talking about earlier, the zone meter project that we're currently working on, and some other things that we're doing around leak detection, and, you know, we spent over the last number of years millions of dollars on water system upgrades. So it's just a continuation of that, but this is a big step.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you, Mayor, for that, because there's two prongs to the water discussion. But having access to clean, safe drinking water, that's one of the things that we've been working on very hard. And it's great to see progress. This is good news.
Yep. All right. Go ahead.
So once we received the letter outlining the Phase 1 funding, I went back to the MP and the MHA because we had applied for Phases 2 and 3 plus the remainder of the sidewalks along Torbay Road. When we applied under ISIP previous with multiple projects, we received rejection letters the same day as the approval letters. So the MP is dealing or following up with the Atlantic office, and I spoke to the MHA on the weekend as well to an event, and he is following up on our behalf too. So good, no news is good news at this point to the mayor's comment regarding the other 3 applications.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right.
We're trying.
Yes, Madeline, that is my sentiment exactly.
So ends my report, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Recreation and Community Services. Councillor Goss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met on, trying to get the dates of this now. Last week. The holidays are rolling into each other.
30th.
Myself and Councillor Mary Thorne Goss and the Director Jen Martin. Just some update items. Registration for the fall programs open September 5th and then September 12th for non-residents. Just a note on that, I think Director just mentioned to me that we had 335 registrations yesterday on day 1 of registration, so that bodes well to people being interested in what we're doing at the Commons. And it also includes different items like yoga class, meditation classes, fitness classes, youth ball hockey, disc golf, and various new special events. The committee reviewed the stats from July and August of all events and programs, and there was a total of 3,383 participants who attended programs and events during that time period. So I think that's really great to see that people in our community are being engaged with the 50th celebrations, and I think they're getting to know that things are happening, and they're coming out to use our facility and and socialize. I think it's a great thing. The director added some of the regular programs are offered in the fall and winters have some low attendance, so we'll be looking at those as well to see what we're going to consider for 2023 programs. For the facility update, the Torbay Common entrance sign has been installed, and staff are working to get the electrical connected, so to get that LED screen input and get it up and running. Splash pad repairs will not be happening as originally communicated. The CAO is working with Marco to determine the next steps. Staff have tentative facility rental schedule completed. So far, there's 49 weekly hour rentals scheduled. This not include internal programs for one-time birthday parties and so forth. Excuse me. I was going to mention this within the thank you and congratulations, but it's kind of part and parcel with this. For the first time in our history, the town of Torbay won the Jack Byrne Cup for the Killick Coast Games, started 17 years ago. So I think that's quite an accomplishment. I attended a lot of these games, as I'm sure a lot of our councillors did, and I congratulate the staff, the athletes, the coaches, the volunteers. It was. I have 2 kids. My oldest Samuel is 17, so this is his last year. And my daughter, McKay, is 13, so she'll have more years. But I have to say, I think because of COVID and last year the kids couldn't stick around or anything else, this year was truly, truly amazing. And I said to many people that whoever came up with this idea 17 or 18 years ago, I don't think they could realize the impact they've had on our community, on the kids, and I think it was so awesome this year. I can't say enough about it, and I can't give enough thank yous and appreciations for the town of Flat Rock for putting it off this year, and also to say that we're hosting next year. So you know what, they set the bar pretty high, and we got to be able to match that and do some, make it a little bit bigger and better every year, and make sure that the kids' experiences, and we have enough volunteers and coaches that we keep our end of the bargain up. So just wanted to add that in there. Silver Spade Awards were presented at the event at Torbay Common on Wednesday, September 8th. The director's looking at options for Halloween and Christmas displays. Torbay Common, I can't believe we're talking about Christmas already. And the department is working with residents to support starting an active 50-plus group. And more information on this initiative will be provided in the fall. So that's so in my report. If anybody has any questions.
I just want to put in there that anybody is looking at that, because when I just saw it, I had to go back to my calendar. Wednesday, I don't know now which is right, but
It's Thursday, I think.
it's Thursday I got in my calendar, because Thursday is the 8th, not Wednesday. All right, so we need to, so if
Yeah.
anybody is participating or want to come to that,
What time does it
it's
start?
Thursday,
Yeah,
not
this
Wednesday.
invite-only event, so the invites have gone out. That was
Yeah.
my typo, actually, sorry about that. But it is actually Thursday, the 8th. It must have lasted a day with the
Okay.
long weekend.
I just want to add there as well about, there's a group wanting to start an active 50-plus, but the other group, in talking to one of the chairs for that, is probably looking at, because they have it on a Wednesday night or whatever, looking at being a part of the active 50-plus. And the other thing that I want to remind everyone, that the application for grant for the age-friendly communities is either, I think it's the end of this month or the first week in October, and to try to probably work with that group and maybe the new one to see what we can come up with regards to that. I'm just looking at some information that's online, and some communities are back since 2007, working through that plan with age-friendly communities. And I guess when the Common and what have you went over there, even for the outdoor activities, we have a playground that there, but now a lot of it is having the swings, maybe a double swing, and benches or what have you that are designed for older adults. So we have, to me, some catch-up to do to get where we need to be when we talk about age-friendly communities. So I'll keep quiet after that. All right.
Okay, great.
Can I ask for an update on what's happening with the splash pad?
There was an email sent to all council. The coding that was recommended is a maintenance issue, and for go forward. So Marco, we're discussing with Marco other options of dollar value equivalent to putting back into the facility.
So CAO, is this tied to the holdback discussion we had? Because part of the conversation we had about paying out that holdback was around the splash pad and the maintenance that was required and stuff that needed to be done. And I'm just curious to see if that's related to that or where we are. Because I know it's been a piece since the Commons been built, where we as a town have struggled to be able to get this resolved, I guess. And so I'm just trying to understand, from the public's perspective, and I thank you for that email, because I did read it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand from the public's perspective, when can we assume that these issues will be remediated in a way where we don't have to not be able to use it because of the deficiencies, that have been identified year after year. It seems to be that it's a continued and it's not a town thing, but seems to me there's a continued deficiency with that splash pad. So I'm just curious.
So when the splash pad was, I guess, poured or built, the concrete was poured under extreme temperatures, which should not have happened in the first place. That resulted in cracking. and also the saw joints as well too. So from a functioning perspective, the splash pad works perfectly. From an aesthetics piece, when you go over and look at it, there are some cracks there which are filled, and it's not ideal. There was a recommendation based on research to put a gritty coating on top. So Marco took some time for Marco to identify a contractor that could provide that. They did samples up for us. Staff at the facility watered it down, determined that it wasn't effective, and that it would be a maintenance issue over time because of chipping and whatnot. So to date, we've had no accidents or injuries of anyone using the splash pad. So the recommendation to come forth is to not proceed with that coating. So then the question was posed, could we take up the concrete panels? And because of the mechanical system underneath, if the panels came up, that could compromise the functioning of the splash pad. So Marco proposed providing other items to the community center in equivalent to the cost of the coating, and they agreed to provide the documentation from a transparency piece, so they would show us. So staff were getting some estimates. I received the final estimates today, so I have to reach back out to Marco, and then it obviously has to Marco knows all this has to come back to council before there's any agreement in place. So
Okay.
I would say with the splash pad is closed for the season. If we do have a tropical fall, then it can be reopened for usage. So we're going to wait a period of time before it's actually drained. But I would say within the next week, everything will come back to council for a recommendation on concluding that matter.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate the update.
Okay, I just want to follow up, because I asked the same questions when I saw this. So I guess my note that I had here, this will all come back in a motion of what the agreement and what we were getting in lieu of having the splash pad, so that there'll be no other misunderstanding or what have you down the road because of us holding back.
No, so there would be an amendment to the agreement, and there would be Marco still willing to offer the extended warranty on the splash pad as well too for a period of time. So all that was quite clear when myself and the facility supervisor met with Marco, that this would all have to come back to council, that I wasn't signing off on anything because there was an agreement put in place. The holdback was released a period of time ago, so it would all still have to be motion council and signed off on, and they agreed to it. They would prefer that we work out the details, have council support, and then engage legal to minimize the expenditure on that end as well too. So yes, it will all come back to council for a motion.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just with that program, with the fall program, that's going to be, my understanding is that there's hard copies, and as per our motion, that there would be copies of that placed around at the different businesses that ask to have them in their business. So for hopefully anyone that's looking for, rather than having just to come to the Common or here to the Town Hall, they'll be able to pick up a copy.
Yeah, we delivered some to the different businesses, but if there's any businesses in town that want to be added, they can just email recreation@torbay.ca to get added to the list, and we can drop some more off.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Perfect. Liaison committees. Atlantic Mayor's Congress met last week. I was not there. I will provide an update. They did send me an email with the presentations that were done there, so I'll get that and add it to the council package. Intergovernmental Affairs Municipal, so I did follow up with MHA Wall and with regards to the speed limit on the Balding line and getting that, getting some alignment on there and making it 50 the whole way. So I did get a response back from somebody in the department that told me they were forwarding my message on to the, wasn't an engineer, traffic something. Maybe it was traffic engineer for further follow-up. So yes, so that's Well, I'll keep on them anyway. So I was following up to the letter that I sent back in February. I know that MHA wasn't getting very much traction with it or responses from the department. So it was promising after I had responded to their email, and the department got back to me right away and told me that they were going to forward it on. So hopefully we'll be able to get something done with that. Jack Byrne. I forgot.
We are meeting next week on the 15th, so we'll have an updated.
I have a question
What's the question?
about this, and I should have probably sent an email.
Excuse me.
So, we haven't appointed our new members yet, right?
Correct.
Does that mean that the members that we had, if there's a meeting called before the new members are appointed, that they are still our representatives? I know that their term's ended, but they'd still attend in absence of new people being appointed.
Yeah, I think that's, as far as I know, Kathy's the one that puts out the emails, so I haven't looked to see who's CC'd, I just.
All right, because I did have a question from one of our current members about that there was going to be a meeting, and I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, until you're replaced by someone else, that you're still there, because the board has to have a certain number of people in order to be able to have a quorum to meet, right?
There's been no question put forth that I was aware of, but to my knowledge, that would be, I guess, the way it should be. But
Okay, all right, that's fair enough.
So the new ones haven't been selected yet?
no, we're gonna do that very soon. We were supposed to do it a couple times this summer, and just things got away from us with summer holidays and everything else.
Okay, all right.
And we haven't met very much, actually. I think we might have met once during that time, so.
All right, okay. Northeast Satellite Joint Council.
We have our first meeting next week, next Wednesday night for the fall, starting up again.
Okay, RNC, I did receive a email today from Ann, thank you, Ann, forwarded on. A resident contacted the town raising concerns about ATVs on Covent Lane, was it? On Covent Lane, and I haven't had an opportunity to call her back yet. Hopefully I'll be able to get back to her tomorrow. But, you know, it's frustrating for residents when our authority to deal with ATVs and traffic is very minimal. I mean, we don't have any. The only authority we got is to put speed calming measures in place on our roads when we deem it necessary. Covent Lane, Northbound Road, and all the way up through there, it's all speed calm neighborhood. But it doesn't do anything for ATVs or motorcycles. So I understand that she's frustrated. So we can still, we can follow up with emails or calls to the RNC, and on the residents' behalf, obviously, that they contact us. But I think that the message that we've been getting from the RNC has been consistent, is that they need people to call in with their complaints so that they can build a file, so.
If I can just add something on that, I've noticed, I'm originally from Bear Arbor, so I've been out there a couple of times. I've noticed they've actually used part of their streets for ATV and trail bike use. And you would, well, the biggest thing, I grew up on trail bikes. I remember you get on and get off the road as quick as you can because you don't want to be caught by the police. You don't want to be chased. I understand that. But what's happened now is the fact that they have these avenues that they're just all of a sudden realizing they're not at risk. They're not going to be chased. And so they're just slowly taking their time and using the main road, and it's working out quite well. So I don't know if there's a place that we can look at doing something like that in our town, not the main highway, obviously, but I think if we take the opportunity to look at this from a perspective of, you know what, they're going to slow down if they know they're not going to be chased, then we might have something that we can work with. So I don't know what roads we can bring that on, but it just may be, I don't know, we can, at one of our meetings, just think about some potential ways.
Yeah, that topic has been discussed at our UMC meeting, and Dave Roberts is a part of that.
Yep.
And there's some other towns that have put in trails or right-of-ways on the roads where the ATVs can travel. Most of the places are outside the RNC jurisdiction, probably in RCMP. And a lot of it is on roadways that are within the jurisdiction of the town and not necessarily provincial roads, so. But the approach that they've taken, that we've talked about, is you engage, and I guess this is probably a somewhere where we don't have a organized group of ATV users like they do in a lot of these other towns. They have ATV groups, and they worked with them on what would the rules be, where are the corridors that you'd want to use, that type of thing. So it's a collaborative effort.
Yep.
Which is what's going to make it work, right? So, yeah, I mean, I got my UMC meeting is next week, and in Grand Falls, Windsor, and I'm sure to bring it up, talk about
Yeah,
it.
just see how it's going.
Yeah, and see how it's going.
Yep.
I'll talk to Mayor Yetman about it and see what they're doing with it.
Great.
Okay. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, minutes are attached. I'm sure that when Councillor Manning gets back around, she'll have some updates for us in terms of that.
Who's looking after fire department in her absence? Did you get
Well,
somebody else to
they've
attend?
always, the fire department reports to the CAO.
Oh, I know, but in the past, if somebody wasn't there, there was somebody else, I thought. I think it was you.
Yeah, it was me, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But
Anyway.
it's been, it's difficult to be able to make those meetings now on Mondays when we have stuff on the go, so, but,
No,
I'll
I'm just
follow-
thinking the last council, I was just thinking a few times Justin couldn't go, that
Yeah.
you were
yeah.
in his absence.
So I'll follow up with them and see when the next meeting is, maybe I might go check it out.
I'm meeting with Chief tomorrow morning, so I
Yeah.
can ask the question and let you know.
Yeah, and I think that's another aspect of that too, Mary, is that Dawn has a lot more of a regular, although she had a regular working relationship with the past chief, but there's a lot more collaborative there, I think now, or as much, certainly. So there's nothing that goes unchecked or unanswered.
Okay.
All right, UMC committee, I'll just mention that I'll be in Grand Falls, Windsor next week from the 15th to 17th for those meetings, and I'll report back after. All right, notice of motion, we have none. New business. Where did I write everything down? Councillor Pollard, pass. Councillor Epby.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of thank yous and congratulations. One, I wanted to congratulate our neighbor. Mike just did the Ironman competition. He went up and went away and did that. And I believe I read in one of the media hits he did that he starts treatment tomorrow. So I just want to extend congratulations. It's a big deal to do one of those exercises as it is, but to do it while you're battling cancer and then facing treatments, that's another thing. So I just wanted to congratulate Mike Dow on his accomplishment. I think it's important. You know, we know Mike is an advocate for traffic safety, but there's lots of good things that people in our community are doing, and I think that sets a great example for a lot of people, you know, to show hope and resilience. And so just want to acknowledge that. I wanted to thank FCM President Tanine Rudick for reaching out and asking me if I would chair the FCM Standing Committee to increase women's participation in municipal government across Canada for the second year in a row. I don't know that a woman in Newfoundland and Labrador has ever had the privilege to do that before, and it's a great honor for her to come and ask me to do that again. This is my third year on that committee and my second year leading it. And the first year that I joined the committee as co-chair, she was the chair, and now she's president. So, so I want to extend a thank you to her for that. I think it's pretty cool. You know, I've had the opportunity to be part of the first all-female delegation to go to Ottawa from Newfoundland and Labrador for FCM. I've had the opportunity to be part of the first all-female delegation to run the M&L board, and now to be the first female that I'm aware of to be asked to do this twice in a row on national level. That's a pretty cool opportunity. So I want to thank council for your support. Thank you, appreciate that. And I also want to note that I will be at the FCM meetings in Strathcona. I will be attending as the Vice President of Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. I wanted to thank Minister Howell as well. She met with the executive of MNL last week. Her and her staff came in and had a checkpoint with us. And it's always great to have conversations with the department and get an understanding of what's going on. And I think the big thing about that I wanted to raise was the Code of Conduct legislation. It is currently in effect, and there's been an awful lot of work that's gone into that. And it's so important for us as municipal government governing bodies to be leaders in our community. And this legislation provides a great framework for ways to go about doing that and making sure it's uniform across the province. So I just want to say thank you to Municipal Affairs for that. And the very last thank you that I wanted to put out is to our residents. You know, the Killicos games I missed this year, I normally go, and it's such a powerful experience. And without residents and volunteers and participants, we wouldn't be able to do that. But also to the residents like Madeline, who asked a question today and came and held us to account. You know, I get an awful lot of, Councillor Appleby, I'm sorry to bother you. You're not bothering us. We chose to put ourselves forward. We chose these roles, and we're happy to hear from residents in all capacities. So please ask us questions, reach out, have conversations with us. That's what we're here for. That's how we learn, and we're looking forward to hearing from residents as we go into the next budget cycle. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Gauss?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I've already mentioned the Killer Coast games. Again, I can't say enough about it. I was so happy and fortunate to be there, and for our athletes and volunteers and the town of Flat Rock to do so well. I'm so happy and so proud of that. I'd like to say congratulations to the Galway Hitmen. They just senior nationals here this past week. They've won their 8th championship in 10 years. So a lot of friends and people that played, I guess, under me when I came through. Mark Dwyer, actually, is from Torbay. He's the head coach of that squad. It was just an amazing week for them, and I want to congratulate them. They're a powerhouse, and they're a force to be reckoned with in this country, no doubt. I guess also a little blurb on myself. We put a team in the Masters, the 40 and over, our East Coast mortgage broker golf shots. We actually had 7 people from Torbay on that roster. I'm just going to name them by name myself. Rod Cantwell, Kevin Fitzpatrick, Mark Dwyer, Scott Dwyer couldn't play, unfortunately, he had to go out of town, and Keith and Joe Maynard. So I think it's pretty cool that a bunch of 40-year-old plus guys got together. And I'm pretty well the only one playing ball. And, you know, anywhere it stopped between 4 and 10 years ago. And we made the final and gave it a good run. So I'm pretty proud of those boys, and I'm extremely proud that we had that many people from the Northeast, also with Andrew Evans is from Pooch Cove. He was on the team as well. So we had quite a representation from our area. So I'm very proud to say that we won the silver there.
Right on. That was on my list.
Sorry, buddy.
Along with, I didn't see my invite.
You're retired too long.
I'm tired too long, yeah, okay.
Any
Deputy Mayor?
indication of the Pat Daw tournament? You should have been in and see him play. He was just awesome. Wink, wink, nod, nod, right? Okay, anyway, no, we did good. I got just to thank you here for everyone involved with the Pat Daw tournament last weekend. As usual, is one of the events that I look forward to, and to think that that's been 20 years on the go is just amazing, and still a fun time and so much involvement in there. Thank you again to any of the volunteers and staff involved with the 50th anniversary. And I said earlier with detail there to Noah and his team with the Land and Sea Festival. I had congratulations to Ward and his team. Never got down there, but I heard and seen lots of good pictures of him in performing. And again, it's great to have a group like that from down this way. I've got condolences here for the Codner family, especially with Tina and her family. The Fleming family, I had the opportunity to work with two of her children at the tech center when I was there. Mrs. Fleming's a sweet lady, beautiful lady inside and out. And the other one that I wanted to pass along condolences to is to Ray White, and losing the passing of his partner Ted News. And most people would know those two with running and owning down there, Think Outside the Box. So that's a great loss to the community. And the other thing I just want to say thank you, the opportunity on behalf of the mayor to attend the barbecue at the North Pond Manor last week. It was a great opportunity to go there and to see the residents up there and to get to chat with them, and how important it is for a connection to be made with each and every one of them, right? So there was a couple missing, and one that I went looking for has since passed away, but it was really good to be able to go there and participate in that, so thank you.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it. I got Hawaiian shirts and everything. It was Hawaiian Day. I was
Yeah.
all picked out, but
Yeah, you forgot to tell me that detail, but anyway,
Unfortunately-
that's fine. I was along going in and getting something to put on, but anyway, it was
yeah,
really good.
Unfortunately, during the week like that, in the middle of the day, it's very difficult for me to be able to make a lot of things, and thank you for.
No, and the
Depending on
big
what
thing
we
that
have.
I just forgot was congratulations to Barry Codner for having the junior field in there, named in his honor, so it was great, quite exciting for
There was all my stuff. I had
Barry.
just got it.
Yeah, no, Barry's
Between you,
been
Ward, and
involved
Alfreda.
with the minor for so long, and that's something that had been talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
And no, it couldn't have gone to a better person, so it was great to see him get that. We've got lots of nice pictures and that of that as well, so. All righty.
So, I'm just gonna do a big blanket thank you. Well, first of all, to staff and council for your hard work that you've been putting in over the last couple of weeks and that you always do. But I'd also like to thank everybody that's been involved in or participated in any of the events that we've been doing for Torbay 50. Because I can tell you right now that we've been really busy with this stuff, and it's awesome to come out to those events and see
Yeah.
new people out that we don't normally see, which is great. I think we had we certainly had 50 people here the other night for our citizenship
Forgot that.
ceremony. You know, it was a lot of fun, and it was nice to see people who've been living in Torbay for most of their lives come over here and get a citizenship certificate, like Jerry Hayes, and he followed up with an email and thanked us for that. And you know, it was really nice, and we had people of all ages. You know, we had children here that got their certificate, and their parents and their grandparents. It was a whole lot of fun. So thank you to everybody who came out for that. And you know, thank you to Barry, I'm going to say it, for all the work that he's been putting in, along with his committee. And you know, you ask him, and he'll be the first one to tell you, and I'll tell you this too, that nobody can do everything on their own. It requires a team to do that, and we put together a really good committee, and they're doing a lot of really good work. There's still some events that are going to be coming up for Torbay 50. The Quilters Quilt Show is coming up this weekend, and there's something else on the go. I can't remember what it is.
September 24th is the regatta reception.
Oh, yes, regatta reception, and the Hall of Fame is coming up.
The Sports Hall of Fame, September 30th, and then we've got Cornhole #2 on
October 1st. Yep.
And later this week, the dinner theater will be announced.
Right. So even though we've done lots of stuff so far this summer, there's still stuff to come. So please keep an eye on the town's announcements, social media and everything. And please get out and support those people who are working so hard to put these events on. And I know they really appreciate people coming out and taking part. So with that, all right. Q&A. Any questions?
Can I, no, go ahead. Can I speak again?
Sure, good. Sure.
Different subject?
Yep.
First of all, I don't know what it's like in your half of the room, but the back half is freezing. But you didn't drive us out. Secondly, I was one of the ones who harped on water quality for years and years, ever since 2007, and one of my main concerns, and I am delighted to see a start to the project. I recognize that you're probably looking at 3 to 5 years before we actually have an active water treatment, if all goes well, but at least it's in the works and it's been given some priority. I did have a question concerning a couple of expenses, and that has to do with the Mummers exhibit. So I heard two figures, and just correct me if I'm wrong. One was for $5,940, that's already been paid, and one's for $6,000 today, and that was for installation of the Mummer exhibit. Is that the total cost involved in that installation?
For the installation, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
because I mean, the cost of the collection itself was years ago, and I knew the Professor Smith who owned the collection. So my question is, and I don't know anything about museums, so forgive my ignorance, but we have a curator, an assistant curator, and 2 students this summer. Are we going to be hiring outside agencies to do all our installations? I know that it's cost shared, but that's not the point. I mean, is this normal to have to contract out installation in a museum when you have staff? That's my question.
I think that the short answer, I would say no, but these initial exhibits, because the History House only opened on July 1st, some of the exhibits were still under construction and being installed, which was all part of the original project that included the renovation and restoration of the house, plus the design of the exhibits, plus the installation of the exhibits. That would have been part of the original contract with ACOA and all that kind of stuff. Am I right on that, Don? Yeah, so going forward, it would be, I would assume that we'd be doing it in-house for certain things.
In project, the unveiling of that took place 2 Fridays ago. Our manager of Heritage, Culture and Information Services, he actually wrote the text and designed the panels, and then we just sent them out to a local print shop and got them printed. He installed them.
So it would normally be done in-house, and other to fill up the building?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you been up there?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
No, it's a good start.
It is.
I didn't see as much as I was hoping to see of the
Yeah.
old stuff and
Right.
sort of the, local stuff, but yeah, it's a pretty impressive building.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Lacy?
I got my money's worth tonight.
I just have a quick question. Dawn just mentioned about the dinner theater.
Yep.
So when are the tickets going to be?
There'll be an
Right now, it's
announcement coming out.
FYI.
Be an announcement later this week. They're working out final logistics with the caterer.
Okay.
So there'll be an announcement later this week. I would anticipate the group is meeting Wednesday night, and then there'll be notice sent out, and I would suspect a week after that at least. So it'll probably be 7 to 10 days
your
before.
tickets.
Yep.
It's been changed from September.
To October, yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Now, our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place September 19th, 2022 at 6:30 right here at the Torbay Town Hall. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye, opposed, carried.